So looking at what I do with my copywriting company, I don't want to do the same with my coaching company. That's the thing. It's like lesson learned, right? So I'm not looking to like grow it madly and have a big team and things like that. I just want to be able to have the business that I want and just be happy with, what comes in for me, right? And be able to help the people that I'm helping. And then that's enough. I don't have to prove myself.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Welcome to Success Leaves Clues podcast, formerly Career Coaching Secrets. I'm Pedro, and today I'm joined by Ange Dove, the Unchained Coach, who has identified one of the most frustrating career challenges facing accomplished professionals: having the experience, track record, and results, but still not being the obvious choice in the room. What makes Ange's perspective unique is her recognition that this isn't a capability problem, but a messaging problem. Backed by 20 plus years running a copywriting agency where she helped leaders articulate their value in competitive markets, and specializes in helping Gen X professionals stop being the best kept secret by getting clear on who they've become, not just who they were, and finding words that actually sound like them. Her approach combines a deep understanding of how language shapes perception with coaching that builds presence, ensuring the right people stop, take notice, and reach out rather than overlooking talent that's been hiding in plain sight. Welcome to the show, Ange.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm excited that you're here. And before we get into what you do now, I'm curious how this all actually started. So, what was going on in your life when coaching became more than just an idea?
Okay, it's something that I'd always toyed at, always wanted to do, and I come from a history of teaching, anyway, so of helping people through teaching. But that was teaching English. That's how I very first started, was teaching English to people where it was a second language for them or a foreign language. And then I got into copywriting because I live in Singapore, and got to realize that a lot of companies needed help with their messaging and they weren't getting the message right. So I ended up really falling into copywriting. Did that for 20 years, ran an agency, copywriting agency of my own, and did that very successfully until, I would say, COVID. I think this is a common thread, I think, for a lot of people. COVID is that point in history where things change. And they certainly did for me, but they changed for reasons that I wasn't really prepared for. And that was, I was working from home, or I was working from anywhere. I built my business so that it was digital, online, and I had a team online that I could rely on. And so when COVID happened, I was thinking, well, I'm okay. I can still continue on. But what I didn't realize was that my clients weren't okay. And COVID really stopped them. And because it stopped them, that stopped them inquiring and making a decision to take on extra work. So that kind of stopped me for a while. And then I had more time at that point then to explore, okay, what if I started doing coaching? Because I didn't see myself going towards retirement doing copywriting the whole time. So that sort of gave me the opportunity to think about it and start to think about making that transition over. So I've actually done the transition myself, and that's why I can help people to do the transition. And then the final nail in the coffin, as we were talking earlier, was then ChatGPT. And ChatGPT really then in for the audience that I was now serving, which was small business owners, for them to be able to use ChatGPT and improve their copy without any help from anybody else, that kind of sealed the deal in terms of no demand for the service, except if people were looking online, they were looking for copywriting jobs. They weren't looking for copywriting services. So that kind of pushed me into coaching. And I would say it's, when you say you can't connect the dots until you look back. So at the time I was thinking, oh, my business, it's gone, it's so hard. But actually it's one of the best things that happened, because it's allowed me to move into this new way of helping people, which I just so enjoy.
Okay. At this point, I usually ask about the shift, that got people into coaching, the feeling of
Yeah.
like, this is actually a business. For you, it's a little bit different because you were in the copyright business and you were kind
Mm,
of forced after
mm,
COVID to jump on that boat, right? The
mm,
coaching side.
mm,
Now,
mm,
let me ask you a different question. For
mm,
example, how did that feel the moment you felt like, hey, you know what, I can actually do this coaching
mm.
thing, that I was like, I'm not sure is that going to play out, that moment when you're like, is this really a thing, because there's a lot of imposter syndrome, there's a lot of,
Mm.
you were pivoting. How did that look like? I'm not sure that when you felt like a coach, the identity shift, is it the
Yeah.
first paying client, is the first invoice, how, walk me through that.
Yeah, I would say it would be, it's a realization, oh, someone will pay me for this. I think, yeah, the first client. It's a huge identity shift. And having gone through it myself, I can help people to go through it as well. It took me a long time to, I guess, if you're in a role for so long, like for 24 years, I was doing this, and it became my identity. If someone said, what do you do? My instant answer was, I'm a copywriter, right? So that's all I knew, right? And to be able to then change it to, now I'm a coach, that took a long time. And it's, as you mentioned, it was like imposter syndrome. It's like, am I right?
Really?
So yeah, really. And and what I help clients through is taking what you know. And I say, when I'm talking to my clients, is you're not starting from scratch. You're not building something new. You're building something from what you already know. So it's taking those skills that you've been building all your life and just applying them to a different area. And that's what I'm doing. And that's what I help people to do. Mhm.
To me, it's always like the birthday parties, right? When you're like meeting someone and like, hey, what do you do? And you're like, I'm a cop. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess I'm a
Yeah.
coach. For me, like sometimes I go back to old corporate jobs I had. I'm like, no, 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 Pedro, take it easy,
Yeah.
man. It's not it, because that's the moment you're caught off guard. Because if you're in a sales call or you're talking about your business, you kind of have the mindset already ready. You kind of
Yeah.
know what you're talking about. When they're caught off guard, you're like, oh, I'm a copy. No, wait a minute. Right. So
Yeah.
that's the identity shift. It's when you don't really have to explain yourself. You just do it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's when you realize that you're not, well, for me, that I wasn't saying I was a copywriter anymore. That was when it was like, oh, okay, I've actually
Oh.
made the transition, right? It's, I'm accepting I have a different identity, and you can have
Mm.
any identity you want. And another thing I always tell my clients as well is, you don't have to be married to whatever so-called identity you come up with. You're free to change it anytime you like. And as I was making the transition over, I actually rebuilt my personal brand several times in the
Mm.
process.
Okay.
So, and it's you, as you move forward and you start, and I think that the secret is just start doing. As you start doing it, you then fall into something that becomes natural for you after a while. It's not going to be overnight. It's a journey. Right.
Okay. And another thing I'm curious is like, once you were out there, helping people, coaching
Mm.
people, who did you naturally end up attracting? I know you mentioned small business owners, right? But
Uh-huh.
in the early days, there's a lot of trial and error. That's one thing. And I want to understand, when did you realize, okay, this is the people I can work best with, you know?
It's funny enough, it tends to be men. Most of my clients are men. So, and it's people, as I say, it's people that are in transition. Um, that's who sort of naturally gravitate to me. Is they're needing to change, they're needing to tell a new story. So those are the people I work with, and also I choose to work with what I would call Gen X. So it's people my age that are going through that transition in life, where then maybe it's a case of I don't want to do this anymore. I've got so many years left. I should be doing what I want to do. So it's helping people with that. And whether that's leveling up in their career, which is one thing, they just want to change within their career, or it's they just want to leave and just start something themselves. So that's who I help.
Okay. Now let's do a quick exercise, if you don't mind. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Let's pretend I'm your ICP, your ideal client profile. I'm the avatar. Okay. I'm like, I want to level up my career. I'm a small business owner, whatever that looks like.
Mm.
But I'm that person you can help. Okay. So first thing, marketing wise, how would I be able to find you in the first place?
Through my website is the most obvious place, I think, and social media. And I tend to, LinkedIn would be my preferred platform. That's the main thing that I would go to, is LinkedIn. Facebook a little bit, and my YouTube channel as well.
Okay. So I was looking into that. Okay. The website, the social media overall, LinkedIn. And I'm like, you know what? And she seems cool. I want to talk with her, or eventually her business, right? So I see there's, something that you posted that resonated with me. Eventually, I go into the sales process. Okay. Let's say there's alignment. Okay. And I understand you may have different offers, so you can pick the main one. So, because what I want you to do is to walk me through the process of being onboarded. How did that look like from my perspective? And what are the potential outcomes of working with you?
Okay. Interesting question. Okay. So usually they would start by doing a quiz. So that's the usual way in to me, is do a quiz to find out where you are, how you stand in your personal brand at the moment. What are the gaps that you may not even be aware that you have them until you start taking the quiz. Then you get a report and an offer to then get on a call with me. And then we just go through your report, what came out of it, what kind of things you could be looking to doing, and we put a roadmap together to get you from where you are to where you want to be. And as I go through that, I then make an offer to work with me. If they want to work with me, then we set up whether they want to work with me in a group setting or one-to-one. Obviously, one-to-one would be quicker. And again, looking at, do they want to just work on their personal brand and their career, moving up in their career? Then they take one roadmap with me. If they're actually wanting to build a business on the side, a side hustle, with the view to eventually making that full time, then I would bundle the two together. They would do the personal branding work with me, because they need to do that anyway as a business owner. But then I will walk them through how to set up their own business with what they have, with the skills that they have. And that would be a year-long process, plus then working on with me after that as well. So that's the process, and the outcome would be either they have a new story, a stronger brand, better presence, maybe establish themselves as a thought leader in their industry, in their career. That's for one track. If they want to start their business, by the end of the year, they would have all the processes in place, offers, and an online presence to be able to promote their business.
Okay, interesting. Now I'm curious about one thing, because I see a lot of coaches out there struggling with, and also some people that are potential clients that are curious about too. So the one-on-one, in the group setting, right? Some coaches are like, I don't want to do group setting,
Mm.
and because they're comparing to the one-on-ones, and sometimes they're not even comparable, at least in my opinion. There
Mm.
are different levels of engagement. I would put it
Yes.
just like that
Yeah.
for different outcomes. So how does that look like for you? Your opinion about comparing those, right? And what made you pick those, right? The one-on-one and the group setting. I'm curious about that.
Mm. I think it's important to meet people where they are at, right? So I don't want to just offer one offer to them and say, right, take it or leave it. If you want to work with me, this is the way. Although that would be preferable, but it's not realistic. So it's, and some people, when they meet me for the first time, they may not have the confidence that they want to work with me, or they may not know. So then a group setting would be less risky. It doesn't cost as much. They can go and dip their toe in, as I say, and take that community route, really, where they join a community. They could self-study. There's information in there to actually get started. And then there's monthly meetings, a monthly Q&A that they can come and join. So that's one route. And if they work with me one-on-one, then obviously it's a higher cost, but it's a weekly meeting with me, and it's really getting down into what they need, and focusing on their individual journey.
Okay, I appreciate the insights. Now, your work seems pretty involved. I'll put it like that. We're talking about weekly meetings. We talk about a
Mm.
component. There's business development also, and all that whether
Mm.
that entails. I understand
Mm-hmm.
you have a team behind you,
Mm.
but
Mm.
how do you think about managing your time and energy so the business doesn't start owning you, for example?
Yeah, that is, I think that's one of the pitfalls I think a lot of people, including myself, have fallen into, where that the business owns you rather than you owning the business. And I wanted to really set up, that's why I say business from anywhere. I wanted the freedom, because ironically, like my story, when I very first started with my copywriting business, I left my teaching job because I wanted the freedom to be able to manage my time. I wasn't really driven by money. I was driven by time. That was my thing. So I had 2 young children at the time. I just wanted to be at home and look after them. And this was just at the start of the internet coming up, right? And we just had our first home computer, and it was really the realization that actually I could offer these writing services and send the stuff by email, and I could work from home. So that's what I did. But ironically, then the business really took off really fast. It was really successful. And I ended up then having to hire staff, having like a business I had no plan for. I didn't really plan for a business at that stage. I just wanted to really replace my income and work from home. I just wanted to be my own boss, kind of thing. So that's what happened. And then it really took off very, very fast. So I had to get an office. I had to get staff. Now I was in territory where I didn't know what I was doing, basically, because I had no experience at running a business. And there's a phrase in Singapore they call kanchong spider. And that describes someone who is just running around kind of like a headless chicken, just like trying to do everything all at once. And then I realized then, and this is when I got my first coach actually, when I realized that A, I didn't know it all. B, I didn't know what I didn't know. And the business was owning me. If I was awake, I was working on the business. So I knew I had to change, right, for my own health, apart from anything else. So that's hiring a coach actually really changed the trajectory for me. Really made me see what I was doing, and just the fact that I set up the business to be free, and it was actually taking me prisoner at some point.
I have a personal story with this. Like,
Mm.
I worked in corporate, right? And
Mm.
I clocked in and clocked out so easily. It was like 6 p.m. I'm
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Bye. And I didn't think about work and anything like that. So I became
Right.
a business owner, a couple of years ago, more than that, but around that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, this doesn't feel like work. And this is
Yeah.
a problem, right? Because sometimes my wife is like, for example, I'm a podcast host for
Mhm.
Success Leaves Clues too, the
Mhm.
podcast we're in. And sometimes
Mhm.
my wife is like listening in the, in the living room. And she's like, that doesn't sound like work. You're laughing a lot, you know, you're having fun. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I also have my coaching
And
practice,
why
right?
shouldn't work be fun? Yeah.
Yeah, but I also have my coaching practice. So that's, in a way, it sounds great. But in the other side, it's like, I need to set up some boundaries or I'll just
Yeah.
keep working. You
Yeah.
know, it's like it's nonstop. And sometimes the only way for me personally is when I notice like a decline on performance, like, oh, I don't have the
Mm.
energy, but at the same time I want to do it, right? So
Mm.
how would you recommend setting up the boundaries so you don't burn yourself out, Pedro,
Okay.
or people
One,
listen
it
out there?
depends on how disciplined you are. Like one of the things that helped me was leaving home again and getting another office. Right? So that's one boundary, right? Is that you've got a physical boundary that you have to
Mm,
stop work and move and go home. So that was one. But now I work from home again. So, but I have the discipline to be able to stop. And the reason is I realize that I know when my best times for work are, and it's usually first thing in the morning. Right? And I get up, I can be really productive. I get up at 5 o'clock. I can be done by 1. And I think, okay, I've put my hours in, right, 1 o'clock, and then the afternoon, because I'm rubbish in the afternoon. I can't do anything at all. So I know my times. I know when I'm good at work and I know when I'm not. And also, I also recognize times where I've tried to push through and try to get that extra bit of work done and then realize that actually there's no point. There's absolutely no point because it's going to be rubbish. So you might as well leave it to the next day and start again. And whatever you were doing that was taking you an hour, 2 hours, and you were struggling to do it and couldn't do it, you'd get it done in 15 minutes the next morning. So that realization of not pushing through when you're tired because you physically, mentally, you can't do it. Your brain can't cope with it. So just don't fight yourself.
mm.
Recognize when you're done for the day. Yeah.
Okay.
And again, you hit on the whole, I suppose problem's not really the word, but you hit the nail on the head. I think when you said it doesn't feel like work, and that's the thing is because it doesn't feel like work, you can do it all the way through the day, right? But it doesn't mean you should, right? That's the thing.
Exactly. And it
Mm,
drains
mm.
you too, right? It's just
Yeah,
not just because it doesn't feel like work. I mean, I get tired also. I mean,
yeah,
that
yeah.
doesn't, it's
And you
just
have to balance. You have to balance
right.
your
Yeah, no,
time.
I love
Yeah.
I love the insights. Thanks for that. Now, I want
Yeah.
to shift gears for a second.
Mm.
Okay. Talk a
Mhm.
little bit about future. So,
Oh. Ooh.
what's the direction you're aiming this business towards? Are you
Ooh.
thinking more about growth, leverage, building even a bigger team, or refining what already works? What feels most exciting
Mm.
right now?
Okay. So what happened with my copywriting business was, as I say, it was accidental in the beginning, and I ended up with an agency with 10 full-time staff in-house. In Singapore, that's really expensive because labor is not cheap here. So, and then struggling every month to find the work to make sure I can pay the salaries. And I didn't plan for that, but all the time I was thinking, I was listening to people and they were all going, you have to grow, you have to grow, you have to grow. So I went down that route of trying to grow until one day I just thought, what am I doing this for? I'm literally killing myself doing this. This is not what I planned for, not what I wanted. And it's a lot. It became work for me at that stage. It really became like work. It wasn't fun anymore. So then I decided to just pare everything down. Then, because the technology allowed, then at that point I could then go and work from home. So then, as people left the agency, I didn't replace them with another person in house. I replaced them with someone online. And then, so I had an online business instead. So that was I could move around with it. And I also realized around about that same time as well, when I was in the UK, and this I think is gold. This piece of information is gold, right? I was in the UK one time and visiting my parents, and because of the time difference in Singapore, it was like 8 hours. I would have to get up early in the morning, open my laptop, see what was going on in the business, give everyone their instructions, like delegate to the team. And then, because then 2 hours later, they've gone home, right? They're not working anymore. So I close down the laptop. I'm done for the day, right? And then I suddenly realized the only difference is geography. I'm just in a different place, but it's the same business, same people, same customers. The only difference was I was forced to put my day into 2 hours.
Second time, I'm counting. Okay, COVID was first. Now, now it's the geography. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, because of geography, that was the only difference, but I was still running the same business with the same people, same customers. And then I thought, well, why can't I do this when I'm in Singapore? I'm working every hour that God gives you, right, to run the business when I'm in Singapore. In England, I can do it in 2 hours a day. And that really changed things for me as well. Put that into perspective.
So the secret is go back to the UK. Is that what you're telling me? Doesn't it sound like it?
Well, it's what they say as well, is work expands into the space you give it.
Right.
That, and that comes back to your question on the boundaries and the discipline, right? Is, you can let it go on and on and on if you want, or you can just say, no, it's going to happen in this space. So.
Okay. Or you don't do it and you're forced into it, right? You're like, okay, okay, and you're not doing it. We're going to force you somehow into doing it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, okay. I love that, and, even when things are going well, there's always something under construction, always building, right? So what's the main thing you're actively working on or trying to improve in the business right now?
Okay. So yeah, going back, so I didn't really answer your question. So looking at what I do with my copywriting company, I don't want to do the same with my coaching company. That's the thing. It's like lesson learned, right? So I'm not looking to like grow it madly and have a big team and things like that. I just want to be able to have the business that I want and just be happy with, what comes in for me, right? And be able to help the people that I'm helping. And then that's enough. I don't have to prove myself. I think that's part of the past with the copywriting agency. I think it's always this push to, I've got to prove myself. I've got to be bigger. I've got to be better, right? Now I feel it, maybe it's a stage of life. I don't know, but I just feel, yeah, I don't have to prove myself. I'm just living for me now. This is my time. And these are the type of people that I like to help, are the people who've got to that realization of, yeah, this is my time now. I want to do what I want to do.
At your own terms, it sounds like it.
Yes, on your own terms. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and not be told what to do by other people, and make your own rules. I don't like following rules. So.
You make up for a terrible employee, it sounds like. Right? You've got to be a business owner.
That's why I work for myself.
Okay. Nice. You've been around long enough to see trends come and go, right? People giving business advice nonstop, especially online today.
Yeah.
So there are sometimes I'm scrolling and it's like AI is going to take over. Next post is AI is dead. It's a bubble. So it's hard with all the noise and all of that. So
yeah.
What's something you hear repeated a lot that you think people misunderstand or maybe even overvalue,
There's two parts that, if you're talking about AI, there's two parts to that. There's either people that, I get customers that say, do not use AI on my stuff at all. Do not, like, they're completely against it. And others that are, yeah, go ahead, right? And I'm in that camp of, it's a tool, it's there for you to use, and I think we've never been in a better time, really, to run a business. We have so much help that we never used to have. Things can be done so much quicker than they ever used to be done in the past. So I think we're on the right direction with AI. I think if you stop fighting it and just use it to help you, right? And then other trends I see, like with because I've been at the dawn of the computer as well.
The dawn of the computer? Wow.
Like I used to, like in England, I used to work in a bank. When I first left school, I worked in a bank. And we were at the stage where, because when I first worked in the bank, there were no computers. Right? You didn't have a computer on your desk. It was all pen and paper, right?
Right.
So when we first got computers, then we had to put all the customers' information, all the files, the customer files. We had to open up the customer file, the physical files, and actually key in all that information into the computer. That's how far back I go, right?
Okay.
And so you're looking at, like at that point, people were fearing, oh, you put in my data, what are you doing with my data? How safe is it going to be? People were concerned about that. They were concerned about, and also they would say things like, with a computer, you don't need paper, but actually you actually used more paper with a computer than without, right? We went through reams and reams of paper in the office. So everyone always fights trends when they first come in, right? There's always a fear of what's going to happen, and it never actually comes true, whatever. And I think this is the same with life in general. You always fear something when you're going through changes. You have fear of the unknown, fear of whatever, right? And you fear, and you always make up in your mind the worst case scenario, right? But that never usually happens. Never usually happens. Like, and if it does, it can come out for the best anyway. Like, I'll give you an example of this. Is the first time I ever did a webinar. When I first got into this field, right, I thought, okay, one of the things I am never going to do is a webinar, right? Because the tech is too difficult. Things are going to go wrong, right? So I said, I'm not doing any webinars. And a coach persuaded me to do a webinar. I thought, oh my God, I was so nervous, right? So
He forced you for the third time.
Yeah, it forced me. Everyone has to force me to do these things. Yeah. So I went on the webinar, and my worst fear was that it wouldn't work, right? The tech would let me down, and I would lose the people that were there. And that's what happened. My very first webinar. So one of my friends messaged me and she said, "You're not there anymore." I went, oh, okay. So I looked up. I was like, okay, right. So
all your fears came to fruition.
All my fears came to fruition. So I had to
Right.
log back on, and they were all still there waiting for me, and we all had a good laugh about it, and it was fine. It was fine. So you make all these things to be so dramatic, right? And they're not at the end of the day, even if it happens. And the funny thing as well is when it did happen, I didn't panic. I didn't think my world had fallen apart. I just went back in, and then we had a good laugh about it. So it was good it happened, because then nothing else could have gone worse, right? So then anything else from there is up.
Yeah. You know, I knew we had something in common. I worked at banking too. Then 2008 happened.
Yeah.
You know, the subprime crisis. And I was also forced out of a market. Okay. So yeah, there's that. That was that going on for me. The reminder about, well, the big changes, right, in technology. For example, car to horses, or horses to car, actually. People were all against it. They were like, this is never going to happen. And it did, you know, eventually. Because at the start, it's not, it always needs a lot of improvement. You don't see the final cut at the start. So there are a lot of flaws, right? That's normal. But you can see the potential. Like AI, you can see the potential. And yeah, that's very interesting. Now, on the flip side, what's something boring or not as hyped that you wish more people actually paid attention to?
Something boring that I wish people would pay attention to?
Yes.
Oh, that's a question. I don't like boring. So
But sometimes it's what brings consistency, right? It's the boring
yeah,
stuff.
the boring stuff. So for me, I would say the boring stuff would be that does require consistency is putting yourself out there, being consistent on social media, things like that. But then, having said that, maybe again it's different times, but it's a different business as well. When I had my copywriting business, I never put my personal brand out, right? I hid behind it. And I had the business brand, but nobody knew it was me running it. Well, so I thought, right? Nobody knew it was me running it. Nobody, my name wasn't on the website. My face wasn't on the website. Nothing, right? I just wasn't. I was invisible, completely invisible. And then then I found that I was going to meetings and the clients would say to me, "Oh, we finally get to meet you. We've heard so much about you." And I'm like, "How?" Because I'm not out there. Right? How do you know me? Right. And I still don't know how, right? Just word of mouth, I guess, right? And then one time I went for a briefing for a copywriting job, and the girl that was briefing me said, it was in a design agency. And she said, just, now we finished this, I just want to introduce you to someone. So just follow me. So I went into what was their staff room. And this girl started hyperventilating at her chair. And she was going, "Oh my God, I can't believe it's you. I can't believe it's you. Oh my God, I can't believe it's you." And I was turning around. I was looking behind me. Who's she talking to?
You're like, I can't believe it's me too.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know she was talking to me. So then I realized she was. And then she said, "I became a copywriter because of you." And I was like, oh. And then just joining the dots, a coach said to me one time, when I was struggling with, okay, do I become a coach, right? And he said to me, "It's not about you. It's the people you help. So get out of your own way." Right. And that really helped. So those two events kind of together kind of helped me through that imposter syndrome of, one, I do have an effect on people. I can have an impact, whether it's intentional or not. And I would say one of the things is with personal branding is if you're intentional about building your brand, or it happens by accident. And it can happen by accident, a good way or a bad way, right? So if you're in control of it, it's better that you do that boring work to be in control of it, I would say.
Okay. Now, before we close this out, Ange, if someone resonated with what you shared and wants to follow your work, we're going to have all the links in the description, but what's the best way to, where should they go?
So if they just go to my website, angedove.com, and take the quiz, that's the easiest way in with me, is just go and take that quiz. And then if you then want to explore what else I do, you can get on a call with me and we can go through how and if I can help.
There were a few moments from this chat today that really stayed with me. Like from the origin story when you were teaching English, and then COVID happened. You were like, okay, I'm okay, but clients weren't. You're like, that was a wake up call. So that's very, very interesting. The way we can be indirectly impacted without even realizing about something that's going on. So, and also about the AI stuff, right? That's something that really did a number in you, like put it like that. Now,
yeah, I mean, all the way through my whole career, and this is what I think people have to realize when you're starting a business, and if you're afraid to start a business, it's never going to go how you expect, right? There's always and there's going to be things you can't control, like the 2008 recession that brought me down to my knees as well, kind of thing. That was hard. But it finished as quickly as it started, in a way. So all of these, all the way through, I've had like areas where you have to pivot because something happens that's not in your control. Technology changes, so then things happen. So that's gone all the way through my business. So it's just realizing that you've just got to take the changes and look at what has happened in those changes and what can you do. So like AI took my copywriting business in a way, but now I teach people how to use AI as well. So, and I've just embraced it.
Yeah, it's like we're tripping forward, right? We're having those obstacles, but it's always moving forward. I love
Yeah,
that. And
you have
another
to. Yeah.
powerful reminder I thought it was really cool is the identity shift we talked about from
Mm,
copywriter to coach, right? And
mm,
when you browse through it, it sounds natural, but it's not that easy, right? It shows in your
not easy.
origin story, the way you
Yeah,
placed, and all the way you told me.
yeah.
And last but not least, I would say is I thought it was pretty cool, right? The living the home office.
Mm,
Because sometimes I feel like that too, and I think
mm,
everyone who works at home feels like that eventually. It's like your breaks are not really breaks. It's like I'm cooking or I'm doing something, and there's always something to do in the house. And if you
yeah,
have this mindset of being productive, you're like, okay, this feels like a
yeah,
big workplace, not just my house right now. So it's hard to turn that switch off, right?
yeah.
But that's basically on my end. Now, this is my long-winded way of saying, Ange, that I really appreciate you taking the time and being open with
Oh, you're
this. You know,
welcome.
it was great
Mm,
having you on.
yeah, thank you. I've enjoyed it. It's a great conversation.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.